More drama building around the future of Paramount Global. The company is reportedly considering layoffs to rein in costs. There are also multiple reports about the studio being up for sale, and that decision could be up to Sherry Redstone, who, of course, controls Paramount through her family holding company, National Amusements. Joining us right now is Rich Greenfield of LightShed Partners. And, Rich, you put out a pretty interesting note on this where you said, all this smoke, is this fire or is this really just wishful thinking? What's the answer?
I think it's very hard to see any strategic buyer. You know, you just think about where we are in the media landscape right now. You've got a bunch of companies that are, have working off their leverage. Take a company like Warner Brothers Discovery, and you look at sort of how their share price, even with all the cost cuts from their last merger, has really not led to shareholder value. The stock is probably down 50+% from when that deal closed. I don't think they're in a position to buy more cable networks. I mean, that's sort of the problem, Becky. Everybody, as you said, would want a studio. Who really wants to own more linear TV, cable network, broadcast networks? That's not an asset class that people are excited to buy. And so I think between the lack of interest of strategics combined with the regulatory environment that probably would make it difficult, especially in a presidential election year, you're sort of left with financial buyers. And then the basic question is, if you're a financial buyer looking at Paramount, what would be the urgency to buy right now? All signs point to a tougher ad market. We've talked about cord cutting on CNBC with you all many times before. That's getting worse. Like, what's the urgency to step in and buy Paramount now? It doesn't feel like there is like this feeding frenzy. Like there's no bidding war. I think it's a question of, at what price can a financial buyer earn a compelling cash-on-cash return? And my guess is the stock would have to be meaningfully lower for that to happen. So I do believe she'll sell the company. I just don't think it's going to happen anywhere near where we are today or anytime soon.
When you say anywhere near, you mean anywhere near the stock price with a premium built into it?
Correct. I mean, I just think this thing has to get, for a private equity buyer. I mean, if you're, again, if you're trading paper and this is simply a stock merger, with substantial cost savings, it could happen here. It could happen higher, lower. Like, I think there's a wide array of possibilities. But if you're talking about private equity, actually putting cash, like paying out cash to either buy the parent company of Paramount, which is National Amusements, or buying Paramount directly, private equity firms need real return on capital. Like, they need to see how they're going to make a true cash return. And I just think at this type of valuation, knowing what's happening to the earnings streams of this company as well as the broader sector, because this is not Paramount specific. You've had Bob Iger on talk about the challenges of linear, legacy media assets. Like, this is not unique to Paramount. They may be in a worse position, but this is industry wide. And so I just think it would have to be meaningfully lower for a private equity firm to get a compelling return on our math.
I mean, you bring up Iger. Iger had said publicly back in July that they were going to be looking at the potential sale of assets, getting rid of some things, moving around. It didn't seem like there were any buyers that really came up for those, so they've changed course. You've got an interesting theory, though, that just the idea of Paramount Plus, the streaming losses that exist, you say they should shut it down and just become an arms dealer, basically.
It's not even just me, Becky. I mean, we've had that view for a while that Paramount is just, they were too late and they're too small in the scheme of total engagement. Maybe they could narrow it down to a much smaller streaming service, but trying to sort of compete as a global competitor to Netflix and Amazon Prime Video, I think is just too difficult. And I think if you look at Sony and how much profit they make by just being a pure arms dealer, there's probably a model where Paramount could scale back Paramount Plus pretty dramatically. And it's not just our view. We were out in Hollywood a couple of weeks ago. Like, there is nobody that believes Paramount Plus should be an ongoing business. Everyone sort of believes the first thing they would do if they acquired this company would be to shut or scale back dramatically Paramount Plus's ambitions. And so the open question is, if everyone believes that, what's stopping the company, especially if their balance sheet is getting, stretched a little too thin in a very difficult market environment for levered companies?
Hey, Rich, can I just pivot the conversation? I don't know if you saw the Netflix news about programming on Netflix and how many hours were watched, what were the highest effectively rated shows. What was the takeaway for you from that in terms of the scale and scope of what they're doing? And how do you think that really compares to what you're seeing taking place on both linear television, other parts of digital, and the like?
Well, two things stood out. One, there were movies that I don't think, we all know that Netflix has big, massive, globally watched TV series. I think people have always sort of been skeptical about the movies. And I hear, we hear a lot of people say, oh, you put movies onto Netflix because they're shitty or crappy movies. Movies go there to die, like nobody cares. And then you see a Jennifer Lopez movie that was watched by 125 million households globally. That is more households than any movie other than Barbie and Oppenheimer. Or sorry, Barbie and Super Mario. Sure, you didn't pay an incremental fee like going to a ticket, but the reach of how many people saw a J.Lo movie that, Andrew, I don't know if you saw it. I never even heard of the movie, The Mother, but it was seen by 125 million households worldwide.
I watched it.
I mean, it's stunning how big movies can be on Netflix despite not having the cultural relevance. And so I think that's something for everyone to think about is, does a movie have to have the zeitgeist of being in the theater, or can it just be a quote-unquote blockbuster, even if it's not being talked about the way you would talk about a Barbie? And that's something I don't know the answer to, but it was stunning to see those numbers. And then your second part of your question, just seeing how big the overall scale is, my guess is Netflix now knows nobody else can put out these numbers. If Disney, Bob Iger, others, like Paramount Plus, for instance, they can't put out these numbers. You would see how tiny the viewership is on a relative basis, and it would substantially favor Netflix competitively.